What if the true history of the universe and the human spirit were not found in the sacred texts we know, nor in the most advanced scientific libraries, but hidden in pages revealed by invisible intelligences? Imagine a record that was not written by priests or scholars, but transmitted directly by consciousnesses that transcend our dimension. This record exists and is called the Urantia Book. More than a work, it is presented as a revelation. It does not merely explain religion or science. It connects the two worlds, offering a view of the cosmos, human life, and God. For some, it is a divine message offered to humanity. For others, it is merely a modern invention. The controversy, however, does not diminish the impact of its words. The text answers questions that have echoed since the beginning of time. Who are we? Why are we here? What is the destiny of the soul? The origin of this material is as enigmatic as its content. In the early 20th century, in Chicago, a patient began to utter strange phrases during his sleep in languages and concepts beyond his understanding. Intrigued doctors formed a research group, which began to carefully record each revelation. For almost 30 years, fragments were gathered until, in 1955, the published version appeared, called the Urantia Book. The compilers themselves claimed that those pages were not human, but dictated by spiritual personalities. The book is divided into 4 major parts. The first describes the centers of the universe and the superuniverses, revealing cosmic hierarchies and structures. The second shows the administration of our local universe. The third deals with the spiritual history of Earth, called Urantia, and the fourth presents in detail the life and teachings of Jesus, including episodes that do not appear in the traditional Gospels. This last section is considered revolutionary. It shows Christ as the full expression of universal consciousness, bringing unprecedented narratives and profound revelations. For many, it is as if a hidden part of the Master's life has been revealed to the world. But one question remains. If it is only fiction, how can we explain the wealth of scientific and philosophical information, much of which was unknown at the time of publication? And if it is real, why has it been ignored by so many religious traditions and academic institutions? According to Urantia, life is not chance or the blind result of material evolution. Within every human being dwells a divine spark, called the thought adjuster. This silent presence is part of God Himself, guiding our choices and inspiring acts of love, forgiveness, and truth. He does not force, but cooperates with freedom. Every ethical decision strengthens the bond with this presence. This idea changes everything. We are more than temporary bodies. We are spirits in training. Death is not the end, but a transition. Upon leaving the body, the soul awakens in Urantia spheres, worlds of spiritual learning, where it continues its evolution until it reaches the Universal Father. The human journey, therefore, is not limited to birth and death, but is a continuous process of cosmic education. Each experience shapes the spirit, which grows not only for itself, but also for the whole. The book states that the evolution of the soul contributes to the formation of the Supreme Being, the collective expression of all creation. This means that our individual choices participate in the growth of the universe itself. Another central point is the special condition of our planet. Earth, called Urantia, is described as a world in quarantine. The reason is an ancient spiritual rebellion led by Lucifer, once a cosmic administrator, who rejected the Creator's plan and attempted to establish an independent order. This rebellion dragged several worlds, including Earth, into spiritual isolation. Since then, humanity has been disconnected from certain universal circuits. According to the book, this disconnection explains why we feel so much loneliness, injustice, and pain. However, it also opens up a unique opportunity to learn to seek the light without relying on direct instructions. Our struggle is more intense, but also more valuable. But the question inevitably arises, how can a God of love allow suffering? The answer is clear. Pain arises from the use of free will. Freedom is a sacred gift, but when used selfishly, it creates imbalance. Suffering, however, is not punishment, but a school. Just as fire shapes metal into a sword, challenges shape the soul into wisdom. Urantia teaches that sadness can be seen as a departure from God or as a path of approach. If interpreted as rejection, it destroys. If welcomed as a lesson, it strengthens. Each fall is a chance to rise again more consciously. In this process, we are never alone. In addition to the inner adjuster, each person is accompanied by seraphic guardians. These beings do not control our lives, but they create circumstances for learning. An unexpected encounter, a sudden challenge, an opportunity to forgive, all can be part of their work. Cooperation between the human and the divine manifests itself primarily in two movements: prayer and service. Prayer is not the repetition of words, but silence of gratitude before God. Service is the translation of that love into concrete action. Together, they form the wings of spiritual flight. Prayer alone leads to isolation. Service alone leads to exhaustion. But united, they create fulfillment. This proposal breaks with traditional ideas. Science often reduces life to biology. Religion sometimes places God as distant and unreachable. Urantia challenges both views by asserting that truth already exists within each person. No temple or special ritual is necessary. The adjuster dwells within every human being, ready to guide. This wisdom is universal. It does not belong to one people or one culture. It is equally available to all. What separates us from it are not external barriers, but internal ones. The ego. The ego creates the illusion of separation, making us believe that we are only bodies, that value lies in possessions and status. It produces fear, pride, and comparison. While dominated by it, we forget our inner voice. But every time we choose truth, serve with love, and forgive unconditionally, the ego loses strength and the divine spark grows. Thus, life reveals itself as an educational journey. We're not here just to survive, but to learn, love, and collaborate with the cosmic project. Every challenge is a lesson. Every act of kindness is an eternal contribution. This is the invitation of the Urantia Book, to realize that life is a cosmic school, that death is only a passage, that the soul is eternal, and that each person is an indispensable collaborator in the universe. In the end, the essential question remains, why am I here? The book's answer is clear: to grow, to serve, to love, and in the process, to come closer and closer to the Universal Father. Since ancient times, the human heart has carried a restlessness, the feeling of being far from its true origin. There's a longing for wholeness in all of us, as if an essential part were missing. The Urantia Book explains that this feeling arises from the unique condition of our planet, marked by the spiritual rebellion that isolated us from cosmic connections. This separation created in us the impression of abandonment, but at the same time, it opened up an extraordinary opportunity to grow without depending on external guides, learning to find the light for ourselves. According to the book, our mission is not just to survive, but to evolve spiritually. Every choice of love, every ethical decision, Every gesture of compassion resonates beyond our personal lives. The consciousness of a single human being influences the entire universe. Thus, we are not insignificant pieces. We are active collaborators in creation. This thought expands the value of life. Every just act is a contribution to the cosmic fabric. However, when we look at the world, the question inevitably arises. If the origin is divine, why is there so much pain? Why do wars, injustices, violence, and suffering seem to dominate the earth? The Urantia Book answers clearly. Pain is not God's creation. It is the result of the use of freedom. Free will is the most precious gift, but also the most risky. When guided by selfishness, ignorance, or the desire for power, this freedom creates imbalances, and from these imbalances, tragedies arise. In addition, there is the shadow of Lucifer's rebellion. This former cosmic administrator rejected the divine plan and attempted to implement an independent system. As a result, Earth was enveloped in spiritual isolation. Without a direct connection to universal circuits, we grew up amid uncertainty, learning from our own experience. But paradoxically, this isolation also strengthens us. Our struggle is more intense. But precisely because of this, it produces more resilient and conscious spirits. Thus, pain is not punishment, but a tool. The book compares it to the fire that shapes iron into a sword. Every trial, every loss, every obstacle is an opportunity for learning. If interpreted as rejection, sadness breaks us. But if understood as a path, it brings us closer to the Creator. Suffering can be seen as distance or as a stepping stone. The choice is ours. This understanding transforms the way we deal with difficulties. Life should not be seen as a series of punishments, but as a school. Every adverse situation is a lesson. Every challenge is an opportunity. The thought adjuster, a divine presence within us, closely accompanies each of these experiences, guiding us silently. He does not eliminate pain, but inspires us to transform it into wisdom. In this process, we are not alone. The book describes the work of the seraphic guardians. They are spiritual intelligences that accompany each life, creating circumstances that favor growth. They do not take away our freedom, but establish opportunities. An unexpected encounter, a crisis that requires courage, a gesture of help that arrives at the right moment. All of these can be expressions of their work. To recognize this presence is to realize that life is not made up of coincidences, but of synchronicities that educate the soul. This raises a practical question. How can we cooperate with this spiritual ensemble? How can we align our lives with the adjuster and the guardians? The Urantia Book answers clearly: prayer and service. Prayer is the inner silence that connects the soul to the Universal Father. It is not about asking, but about gratitude. It is sitting in the divine presence without words, just acknowledging its existence. This moment strengthens the spirit, opens space to hear the inner voice, and brings peace that transcends circumstances. Service is the practical manifestation of this communion. It is transforming love into action, supporting someone, forgiving unconditionally, reaching out without seeking reward. Service makes visible in the world what has been experienced in the silence of prayer. These two dimensions are presented as wings of spiritual flight. Prayer alone isolates, service alone tires. But together, they balance and complete each other. Prayer illuminates from within, service spreads light outward. It is this harmony that brings each soul closer to the Creator. Even so, despite knowing this, many are unable to move forward. The reason? The greatest enemy is not outside, but within, the ego. It creates illusions, convincing us that we are only bodies, that our identity depends on possessions, titles, or power. The ego generates fear, pride, envy, and comparison. It stifles the inner voice, distancing us from the truth. Society reinforces this illusion by valuing only external achievements. From an early age, we learn that success is accumulation, that happiness depends on recognition. In this logic, we forget to listen to the adjuster. But Urantia assures us it is possible to overcome. The key lies in daily practices. Inner silence allows us to identify the ego. Forgiveness breaks its chains. Service weakens its hold. Each conscious decision opens space for the adjuster to shine more brightly and for the guardians to act with greater clarity. Thus, little by little, the ego dissolves and the spirit grows. This transformation does not require temples, exclusive teachers, or complex rituals. The book affirms that wisdom is already within each person. The adjuster is living proof of this. No intermediaries are needed to access God. One need only turn to the silence of the heart. This truth is universal, equally available to all. Urantia challenges both scientific and religious views. Materialistic science reduces life to biology. Traditional religion often portrays God as distant and unreachable. The book breaks with these perspectives by stating, God dwells within you, in every breath, in every sincere thought. This vision liberates and expands. The divine presence knows no boundaries of culture, race, or creed. Where there is sincerity, the adjuster manifests itself. We are all spiritual children in the process of growth. And this growth does not end with death. Death is only a transition. When the body disintegrates, the soul awakens in Urantia worlds, spheres of learning where it continues to evolve. There, it receives instructions, performs services, and prepares for higher stages, until the final encounter with the Universal Father. This perspective gives new meaning to life. Nothing is in vain. Everything is part of a continuous process. Thus, every gesture of love has eternal value. Every forgiveness opens the way. Every act of service is a contribution to the whole. Urantia shows that life is a cosmic classroom. The adjuster is the silent teacher. The guardians are assistants, and we are the students. However, the book also warns that the path is not linear. There will be falls, mistakes, and setbacks. But each new beginning makes us stronger. Each time we get up, we grow more conscious. Failure is not the end, but part of learning. This understanding changes everything. Collective suffering, wars, injustices, tragedies can be seen as the result of misused freedom, but also as an opportunity for reconstruction. Humanity is called to learn from its mistakes, transforming them into steps of ascension. This is the essence of the spiritual struggle, recognizing internal illusions, overcoming the ego, and choosing truth. Every decision brings us closer to the light. Every conscious choice strengthens the spirit. Triumph is not found in external achievements, but in living in harmony with the divine presence within. In the end, the message is clear. You are indispensable. Your life is not an accident, but a mission. Your growth benefits not only you, but the entire universe. Without your contribution, the cosmic project would be incomplete. The Urantia book invites us to take on this responsibility, not as a burden, but as an honor. We are part of something much greater. Every soul is a collaborator in creation. Every awakened heart is a flame that illuminates the path for all. The Urantia book makes it clear, no one is alone on their journey. No matter how dark the night, no matter how silent the path seems, There are always spiritual forces at work around us, sustaining every step. Thought adjusters, living fragments of the Creator, dwell within us. Seraphic guardians accompany our lives, creating opportunities for growth. And this entire invisible network is connected to the universal purpose of raising humanity back to wholeness. Accepting this reality opens new doors. Prayer and service cease to be isolated rituals and become inseparable dimensions of the Spirit. Prayer is the inner silence in which the soul stands before God, not to ask, but to give thanks. It is the moment when we surrender to the divine presence without words, simply recognizing that we exist because we are sustained by the Universal Father. Service is the translation of this experience into concrete action, supporting, loving, forgiving, offering. When prayer and service come together, they create the two wings that allow the Spirit to fly. This union transforms life. Prayer strengthens from within. Service expands the light outward. One without the other creates imbalance. Prayer alone can lead to spiritual isolation. Service alone, without inner roots, leads to burnout. But together they create wholeness. It is this balance that Urantia calls the flight of the Spirit, the path that brings every human being closer to the Creator. However, even with this understanding, many remain trapped. Why? Because the greatest enemies are not outside, but within. The ego is the most powerful barrier. It convinces us that we are only bodies, that our value depends on possessions, titles, or social recognition. It generates pride, fear, envy, and comparison. While dominated by it, we stifle the voice of the adjuster and distance ourselves from the truth. The world reinforces this illusion. Education, politics, economics, almost everything teaches us that happiness depends on what we achieve externally. This logic keeps us on the surface, making us forget that the real treasure is within. But Urantia shows that overcoming the ego is possible. Every time we choose truth over lies, forgiveness over resentment, service over selfishness, the ego loses strength. And at that moment, the adjuster shines more brightly, and the guardians can act more freely. This process is described as the true spiritual struggle. It is not about external battles, but about overcoming internal illusions. Suffering is part of this discipline. Just as fire shapes iron, difficulties shape the soul. When we view pain as separation from God, it breaks us. But when we recognize it as an opportunity, it strengthens us. Each fall is a chance to get up more aware. Each tear is a step toward the light. Therefore, the book invites us to look at life as a cosmic school. We are not here by chance. Every experience, joy or pain, is a lesson. The adjuster is the silent teacher. The guardians are attentive assistants. We are eternal apprentices. The goal is not just to survive, but to grow toward the Universal Father. This view also redefines death. For Urantia, physical death is not an end, but a passage. When the body disintegrates, the soul awakens in Urantia worlds, spheres of advanced learning. There, it continues its evolution, receives instruction, performs services, and advances until it unites with the Creator. Life is continuous, without interruption. The body is only the first classroom. Understanding this gives new meaning to the present. Every gesture of love, every ethical decision has eternal value. They are not just momentary choices. They are contributions to the very growth of the universe. Urantia teaches that as we evolve, we not only transform ourselves, but we collaborate in the formation of the Supreme Being, the collective experience of creation. Thus, our lives are not isolated. Each is part of the cosmic mosaic. But an inevitable question arises. If the path is so clear, why do we still stumble so much? Because freedom is absolute. God has given us free will, and with it comes responsibility. We can choose truth or illusion. We can follow the adjuster or the ego. This is the great test. The Creator does not impose, He only inspires. Destiny depends on each person's choices. In this context, prayer takes on new meaning. It does not change God, but it changes us. When we are silent before the Father, we align ourselves with the greater purpose. Sincere prayer purifies the heart, strengthens faith, and makes room for the adjuster to speak more clearly. It is like tuning an instrument so that it plays in harmony with the symphony of the universe. Service, in turn, is the practical test of this attunement. It is useless to feel inner gratitude if it does not translate into concrete love. Service transforms inner communion into visible reality. It is in caring for others that we show how much we understand God's presence. The book insists, prayer and service are not optional practices, but the essential path. They are two inseparable dimensions that sustain spiritual evolution. When united, they elevate the spirit, dissolve the ego, and bring us closer to the light. Still, Urantia reminds us, the path is not linear. There will be mistakes, failures, setbacks, but every new beginning is a victory. Failure is not the end, but part of learning. Each time we get up, the spirit grows stronger. This view also changes our perception of collective tragedies. Wars, injustices, inequalities, all of these can be seen as the result of misused freedom. But they can also be understood as collective lessons. All of humanity is called to learn from its mistakes, transforming them into stepping stones for ascension. Therefore, the Earth's destiny is not doomed. Although it is a world in quarantine, the book assures us that this isolation is not eternal. Every time a heart chooses truth, the reconnection with the universe is strengthened. Humanity is moving toward reintegration. The planet Urantia will one day vibrate in harmony with creation again, and each person's role in this process is essential. The adjuster dwells within you, waiting for your choices. Guardians are all around, preparing opportunities. The universal Father awaits the return of each child. The responsibility is great, but it is also a source of hope. Without you, the universe would be incomplete. In the end, the message is simple but transformative. You are indispensable. Your life has eternal value. Your choices contribute to the growth of creation. Your journey is part of the universal destiny. Thus, the invitation of the Urantia book is clear. Be silent to hear the inner voice, serve to manifest love, overcome the ego to liberate the soul. The path is not easy, but it is glorious. The destination is not uncertain, but certain. Union with the universal Father. Every day is an opportunity to move forward. Every decision is a chance to choose the truth. Every gesture is a seed of eternity. This is the victory of the Spirit, to live conscious that God dwells within us and to act as a collaborator in creation. So when you ask yourself again why you are here, remember, you are here to learn, love, serve, and evolve. You are here to be a living part of the divine plan. You are here because without you, the universe would not be the same.